And this is a sad day, Charles, for human rights in Nigeria. Sunday Jackson, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm a human rights advocate. Sunday Jackson, by anyone's estimation, is totally innocent. And the issue where this man was out farming, minding his own business, and then the attacker came and a struggle ensued. And of course, this man is going to defend himself. That's why we call it self-defense. And yet today, we were at the Nigerian Supreme Court, and it was very brief. It was only about maybe 2 minutes long. And we just wept at the failure of the Nigerian Supreme Court to say that this man, and they had the opportunity to say this man was totally innocent. We haven't seen all the ins and outs of the decision, but we had the opportunity to meet this humble farmer, this young man who unfortunately his wife abandoned him, had been on death row for 10 years. So Sunday Jackson has now become an international case for human rights.
Yes,
and so we're going to continue to advocate.
I was going to ask you what are the international dimensions of this case?
Well, the international dimensions are Open Doors, which is a human rights organization, has recounted that there have been thousands of killings of Christians by Fulanis. And so as a human rights advocate and as a pastor, I'm here to advocate for this man who is totally innocent. So it has international implications. The eyes of human rights advocates are now on Nigeria. Like, how could this happen? How could this possibly happen? By anyone's estimation, as Barrister said earlier, manslaughter at least, because murder one that he's being convicted of and may face hanging if we can't get clemency for him, it has to be premeditated. So what justice on the Nigerian Supreme Court, that didn't pop up and say to him or her, this is a case of self-defense and this man is totally innocent. So we encourage people to continue to pray for Sunday Jackson and his innocence.
Emmanuel, what was the prosecution's argument? I understand that they urged the court to convict Mr. Jackson solely on his confessional statement and based on the fact that death had occurred. So basically, no mitigating circumstances, and that was pretty much how the judge saw it.
Yes, so part of the problem is they are arguing that he had a responsibility to flee. Now, in the US, we have, stand your ground rules, which means you can defend yourself as much as you want. Now, here they're arguing that instead of fight, you should have flight. You should flee.
In other words, after he overpowered the man and retrieved the knife, there was no further need to stab him.
Yes, but that is not accurate, and I don't think that's a fair requirement to make to someone who is facing imminent death. Now, just the data alone of all the massacres that have occurred, he couldn't have known if there were more headsmen on their way to kill him. He has seen reports of what these people do. This guy just stabbed him. And so to expect him to reasonably assume that to fulfill the conditions of the law he needed to flee made no sense.
Yeah, but nevertheless, do remember that a lot of Nigerian law is based on English common law. And if you go into somebody's house to rob the person, I think it's different in America. It's that standard ground thing. You can actually shoot the person. If you did that in the UK, you'd be charged with murder.
Well, yeah, but here's the issue. The issue is that the attacker brought the knife, he overpowered him and took the knife after he sustained injuries. And this is why I have a problem. The evidence shows that he was injured in the leg. And then you say that he should have run. So he was at that moment momentarily incapacitated to even be able to run. I mean, the facts are not in doubt. This man did not die, that this attacker died as a result of the attack. But the circumstances was he attacked me, I was in fear for my life, and I fought back.
Were there any witnesses?
There were no witnesses, but I mean, even the prosecution admitted that the weapon belonged to the attacker. The evidence, he had scars on his body of the injuries he sustained.
Okay, let me ask you, William.
Yes.
Are you now in the process of trying to reach out to political leaders in Adamawa State in order to seek clemency? Because that's the only option, really. Isn't it?
That's the only option. We are bringing out every possible person, method, ability to be able to grant clemency to Mr. Sunday Jackson, who is totally innocent. And so, yes, we are on a fast track to alert people that here's a man that you can stand up for from a human rights perspective. Be a hero today in Nigeria on the issue of human rights and stand up for this nobody Sunday Jackson, that's totally innocent in spite of what the Nigerian Supreme Court said today. So yeah, we're initiating and we're going full force on that.
And how much time has he actually got now?
Well, we're not sure what the timeline is now. Right. And just to illustrate the level of disappointment, we had someone on standby to pick him up from prison today.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make the call to say he's not going home, he's going to be killed. His children are ill. We've had to take care of them. His wife abandoned him. And so even in this time, he's not surrounded by his family, and we're going to put him to death. But I do want to make a quick point here about we're standing up not just for him, but for all of us. The Fulani militia have killed thousands of Christians. They've killed Muslims as well, and many of them are foreigners. So we have a situation where foreigners come and kill Nigerians with impunity, and Nigerians can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
In the northwest right now, Lakawura is a Fulani terrorist group that was invited to come and help stop the terrorism of Boko Haram and bandits, and they're now killing the people they came in to protect.
Right.
So Nigeria is under siege, and there are more Nigerian citizens on death row in Nigeria now for defending themselves against Fulani headsmen than there are Fulani headsmen in Nigerian prisons in death row. That's just wrong. That's unacceptable.
Upside down.
So no idea how much time he's actually got.
No.
Because I mean, there must be a period that allows for the clemency process to
Well, the court did not issue their opinion today, and they said not till next week. So we're on a fast track.
So they just made an announcement.
Correct.
Right.
They
That's
just
why I
made
said
the
it took
announcement.
2 minutes.
Right.
They had 30 judgments to deliver today, so they said they couldn't read everything, and they would just give the conclusions. So all we had was dismissed.
Right.
And we won't know till next week. But I will contrast this with the death row case in Indonesia that we won.
Well, I'm going to come to that in a minute, because we're fast running out of time. But
Yes.
I mean, he's been in prison for 10 years.
Yes.
What must his mental
Start building your crypto
state be?
Well, we saw February 19th, 2021. We went to Yola and we actually had access to visit with him and to pray for him. So here's a man that has lost everything simply because he was trying to defend himself and defend his family and defend his farm. As Barrister said, how did Sunday Jackson know that there may be 20 other Fulanis that are coming right behind this gentleman who attacked him? So his mental state, you can imagine being in prison for 10 years, losing your family, losing your children, losing your wife. I mean, the man is crushed and depressed, and that's why we are going to continue to advocate for the innocence of Sunday Jackson.
And Emmanuel, you were talking about Indonesia.
Yes.
I mean, you've done a lot of cases across the world. Tell us about that case in Indonesia where you got a Nigerian off death row, and how that contrasts with what happened here in Nigeria.
Yes, so that was a fascinating case. It's definitely one of the most complex cases I've had to deal with. And the gentleman was convicted under the identity of Emmanuel Ihejirika, which wasn't his real name. The passport wasn't his own passport. So he ended up, by mistaken identity, getting a death sentence for crimes that he did not commit. And we had to prove that he was not a Sierra Leonean, but a Nigerian. And we couldn't get the data from the NIS. And so
that's the
Nigerian Immigration Service.
Yes.
So we had to conduct a DNA test on his brother from Ebonyi State here in Abuja. And then we had to do a DNA test on him in prison to establish. This is one of the most bizarre cases ever. We had teams of lawyers working in Indonesia, Australia, Pakistan, and Malaysia, and then myself in the US. And very fortunately for us, the Indonesian Supreme Court granted him a reprieve. And he came home after 20 years from a country that is, the biggest Muslim country in the world. There's a bit of racism in that country, and Nigerians have a terrible reputation. But the Supreme Court set a poor Nigerian free, and he came back maybe about a year ago to Nigeria.
Yes.
And the work that Sonny Akoni, the counsel on this case, did was fascinating. He's won death row cases before, but this was a big shocker to us. And about the timeline, quickly, I was going to say, in Indonesia, we came into the case after he had exhausted everything. He was awaiting execution. But the Indonesian ambassador told me here in Abuja, he said, listen, 27 days to his conviction, you have a right, to his execution, you have a right to file an additional appeal. So we went around the world and we gathered our data. We had huge briefs. When he was told he was going to be executed, we submitted our appeal. And a couple of years later, the court said, we're going to overturn his death sentence. So in our case in Nigeria, we don't know the clock we're working with, but definitely time is of the essence to get him free.
But on a final word,
Yes.
He now essentially is in a race for his life.
He is in a race for his life. And this Indonesian case was a great day of celebration because we brought that gentleman home and landed here in Abuja on Christmas Day of all things. So we're going to be with Sunday Jackson until the final lap of this, and we are hoping to God that our prayers will be answered, and we ask others to pray, Charles, and thank you for bringing attention to Sunday Jackson, this innocent man.
Well, thank you for bringing that story to us, and we're encouraged by the work that you do, both of you, and keep doing it. Dr. William Terence Devlin is an American human rights leader, Mr. Jackson, and of course,
So if this is true, that is to say, we are not safe in this country. There is problem, we are not safe, and bigger problem is ahead of us. For what you've just listened to now, there is problem. We are not safe in this country. You do not have right for self-defense. You can't defend yourself so that you will not be a murder, you will not be charged of murder, right? That's what it basically means now, that you are not to defend you. You do not have any right for self-defense. For example, in case you don't understand there, this man that have been sentenced to death now was in his own farm, working in his own farm. Hershman Fulani came to that farm to attack the innocent man. Unfortunately, this innocent man working in his farm was able to overpower him. The knife that he uses to, you understand? So this Fulani Hershman brought the knife. So this man overpowered the Fulani Hershman after a series of dragging, fighting. So he was able to buy the man with that same knife, self-defense. Meanwhile, this same man sustained some injuries. He had bruises, injuries in his body. So now they took the matter to the court. The court said it does not have right for self-defense. That when you succeeded, you overpowered him, you get hold of that knife, you should have run away with the knife without buying that person. Because you did that, you are now a murderer. You committed an offense. You are a murderer. Now they are sentencing him, or they sentenced him for death. That's the problem. In other words, if armed robber, kidnappers comes into your house to rob you, you don't know. Some of them must have surrounded your house. One of them now came into your room, came upstairs, came into the room, while others surrounded your buildings. You don't know because you are upstairs or you are inside. So because you have power, because you know, okay, that person, individual, come into your house, you were able to resist that fight. You overpowered him. You grab the gun. You uses the gun again instead of him using the gun to buy your enemy. You now use the gun to buy him. So instead of you to buy him, since you now get hold of the gun, you should have run away from your house. Meanwhile, you are not even sure. You can't even run at that time. You can't even run. And that man sustained some injuries in his legs, bruises. He can't run with that. And he was not sure if he has members ahead of him. God, Nigeria. Let me say we have problem in this country. There's a lot. We are not safe. We are not safe. They say stop your enemy before they stop you. Now you don't have right to stop them. You wait and allow them to stop you. For armed robber, Hershman, why an innocent person were in his farm doing his job, doing his work. You came from nowhere to take his life. God be the glory. God were so kind. You were able to overpower him. It becomes a problem for you for not running away after you overpowered him. And the court testified that the knife, the guy, the Hershman actually brought the knife. So what is his offense for not running away after you overpowered him? While I did this country, while I this problem, serious problem ahead of us. No, this is not right. This is wrong. This is wrong. Or maybe this law is only working in that region, in that Adamawa state, where maybe it's only working there, because you're not telling me when you see danger, go. You need to defend yourself in whichever way. Somebody who came to you to take your life must have already signed his own death warrant. He signed it already. So there's no, because if this same person If God were not so kind, this person could have, because he made up his mind already to come and attack you, either to take your life or to take whatever he's after. Do you understand? So this man wouldn't have that kind of mercy, like to let you off. No. Serious problem in this country. Anyways, you're not telling me that you see danger. No, but you should not fight for yourself. You should not do self-defense. Very important to don't let your enemy stop you. You need to stop them before they stop you. You need to be alive to start judging the case rather than fold your hands, allow them to take your life, because at the end of the day, nothing will happen to them. But you defending yourself becomes a problem. Let it be a problem. Yes, that's why we have lawyers to judge the case. The matter will be there. I know it's not all the cases they will win, but you need to be alive to tell the story. Not allow them when you have the opportunity. No, you need to defend yourself with everything you could. You have to defend yourself. You need to defend yourself. Be alive to tell your story. What happened on that fateful day? May this never be your portion. Please share this video.